A business can pass every single financial check but still be a bad deal. I'm about to show you why. We've previously touched on the financial due diligence of a business, but there's one really critical assessment that most people haven't yet learned how to do, and that's the operational due diligence of a business. The financials show you exactly what a business makes. It's a result of what the business has previously done. But what the numbers don't tell you is what is holding the performance up. Most of the actions that take place within the business don't actually show up on the profit and loss statement or the balance sheet. And what it can be held up by are a few things that actually aren't as stable as what they might originally seem. So once you've finished following the money in the business, the next thing that you want to follow are the behaviors. There are 5 things that you need to check. And the first is the demand. Where are the customers and the work actually coming from? Is it from one channel or several channels? Is it from a system that keeps running by itself? Is it the owner's personal relationships? This is your customer acquisition strategy. And if you only have 1 or 2 channels for this, if those channels dry up, then it's likely that you're going to need to figure out how you're going to get business or customers in the future. The next is delivery. How is work actually being done? Are the systems and processes written in people's heads, or are they taught once? What's holding quality of performance in the business? If everything's done in a way that's not planned, systemized, and tasked, you really are just operating on more of a vibe than anything that's predictable. What happens is if one thing breaks, everything else falls to pieces afterwards. Next is tools. What does the business actually run on, and what happens when those things break? If you're reliant on a few services, a few assets, or something that's actually glued the business together, you really run the risk of not being able to deliver anything to your customers if there's failure among any of these points. Next is people. Some businesses operate with people who are absolutely critical to the ongoing success of the business. These people can be very difficult to retain, to find, and train. If it isn't easy to find and replace staff when they leave, you're really running a business that's reliant on key people, and that poses a strong risk to the business if they're no longer around. What you're really looking for when you're assessing the operations of a business is the continuity. If you take one thing away from the business, does that cause everything else to fall over? And really, this is the primary test when it comes to breaking down whether or not a business is operationally sustainable. So real quick, email 17 of my free 21-day How to Buy a Business course covers operational due diligence. If you want a link to it, then just head down to the comments and you'll be able to find the link and subscribe. About a year ago, we were looking at a commercial bakery to bolt onto our food-based business. The owner had gotten sick and he was motivated to sell the business. The financials actually looked fine, and we structured a deal that was going to work for everybody. Everything was moving, but when we got under the hood, we found out that the owner was doing practically everything in the business himself and by hand. He was up early doing all the delivery runs by himself. He was planning the baking schedule. He was doing the rostering, the recipes, and how to train new staff members all lived in his head. The numbers were real, but they were only like that because he was holding everything together. When we started to cost out what we needed to do in order to replace him, the deal no longer made sense for anyone. That business relied on one person filling all of the constraints and being the operational burden on the business. So it was the behaviors in the organization that killed that deal for us. Now, a lot of small businesses lean on the owner in one way or another, and that's just the reality. But the real question is whether or not that load that sits on the owner is something that you can actually fix. If you can't, then the problems are going to exist no matter what you try and do. Now, what I want you to take away from this is that due diligence isn't just about the financial analysis of a business. It's about breaking down what actually happens while the current owner is running it. If it's profitable, it might be because the owner is bearing the load. I'm sure that you've seen owner-operated businesses before that rely on 100-hour weeks from a working owner. If you have, I'd love to hear more about it in the comments. Otherwise, if you want real frameworks from someone who's done 12 acquisitions, then make sure you subscribe. Every week, I'm going to be sharing more frameworks and videos about the business acquisition process for buyers. If you're currently working on a deal, then I want you to find the Bring Your Deal session, and you and I can break down the acquisition that you're looking at and seeing if it can pass the operational due diligence that it needs to.